A video game addict finds himself in a new world inside a mysterious game called Alan, and begins his journey to uncover the secrets of the summoner class, overcoming challenges with no clues or guidance.
This story begins as our protagonist's favorite game shuts down all of its servers. With the game gone, the protagonist realizes that he will have to touch his unfind and find games in Beat. So, he gets to searching for a hardcore game on the internet, and comes across a game that claims to have no ending. With the protagonist's interest already at its peak, he starts feeling like he's up for a real challenge. So, he chooses the hardest difficulty, Hell Mode, and also the hardest class summoner. The second he hits play, the computer literally absorbs him inside the game world, and basically reincarnates him as a newborn youngling. His father is happy to learn that he's gotten a son and names him Alan. Alan receives a lot of love from both his parents, so he feels glad even though he's born into a poor farmer's family. Over the next couple of months, he learns that he is currently in a rural village where most of the people cultivate land and pay taxes to their feudal lord. Alan's dad, Rudin, is a farmer and his mother, Teresia, is a housewife. Since both Rudin and Teresa are in their early 20s, Alan believes that he will soon have younger siblings and can't wait to become part of a bigger family. One night, Alan recalls the basic Isekai trope and uses the command stat window open. It works, but instead of a holographic system menu popping up, a grimoire appears, causing Alan to freak out. He quickly uses the command stat window close before his parents come in and pretends as if he is asleep. After making sure the parameters are clear, he summons the grimoire again and goes through its pages. The first page has Alan's stats written down, and as expected, all of them are at the lowest rank. The next page entails the details of Alan's summoning skill, and reading it, Alan learns that he apparently is already able to summon H-ranked insects and beasts. The book suddenly glows and flips itself to a new page. It's a message from Elmia, the creator of this world, who explains that the summoner class is still under beta testing, so he apologizes if Alan faces any difficulties because of his chosen class. Alan doesn't care about the message and proceeds to summon an insect, but no matter how many times he tries the incantation, the summoning spell just doesn't work. Alan thinks hard for a solution and realizes that perhaps he needs to create the relevant beast first. So, he creates an H-ranked insect card. But as he's about to summon the beast, he notices that his mom, Teresia, is coming. So, he pretends to be asleep again, but ends up actually falling asleep. The next early morning, Rudin goes outside and starts chopping wood while Teresia gets to cleaning their clothes. As both parents are busy outside, Alan uses this opportunity and uses the insect summoning spell, causing his room to be filled with luminescent balls of spirits. Fortunately for Alan, his mom isn't paying attention, so he quickly gets on with it, and as the spirit balls are condensed once again, they manifest into a cat-sized grasshopper. Seeing its angry expression, Alan wonders if this creature will even listen to his commands. He decides to still give it a try, and with his half-broken youngling voice, orders the bug to fly to his hands. Bug, however, turns the other way, making Alan wonder if it's dumb or something. He suspects that the reason the grasshopper isn't listening to his commands must be because he hasn't met the necessary conditions yet. So, he checks the grimoire and looks at the grasshopper's stat menu. He picks the name Dina for the green bug and then looks at its stats when he learns that this tiny little insect actually gives him +1 endurance and agility. This fact causes Alan to blurt out the word awesome on impulse, prompting his mom to enter the room. Seeing the ugly insect grosses Teresia out, and she instinctively stomps on it. Despite this accident, Alan continues to test his summoning skill whenever he gets the opportunity, and one day decides to summon a beast. A white rat comes out, and as expected of an H-rank beast, it's also dumb as bricks, just like Dina. Still, Alan gives it the name Mousy, and then looks at its stats when he learns that it actually has an ability called Scurry. Alan manages to activate this ability, causing Mousy to scurry around him. This makes him wonder what kind of strong monsters he can potentially summon and control. For now, he can only create a total of 10 summoning cards. So, he creates 10 Mousy cards, and as a result, his attack stats get a plus boost because of Mousy's buff. With this boost, he can now easily chop wood, even though he's only a year old. But he still doesn't think it's enough. This makes him wonder how much easier the game would have been if he had chosen any other difficulty. So he regrets picking Hell mode. Rodin comes back home with myoglobin all over him, making Teresia worry if he's hurt. But Rodin claims to be fine, explaining that he went to a boar hunt earlier, which caused this. Rodin asks Alan if he'd like to see the boar they've hunted down, and as Alan excitedly nods, Rodin carries him to the place where the beast is being carved up. On their way there, they see a flock of birds called albihirons, who are no less than dinosaurs in size, so Rodin refers to them as monsters. Rodin tells Alan a fun fact, saying that he named him after those birds, hoping that he too would live a free life and fly around wherever he wants to in this world. He sleeps off on Rodin's hands, as Rodin walks to take him to his creature. When they eventually arrive at the location, Rodin wakes him up and shows him the great boar. When he touches the great boar, the first thing he thinks about is the fact that the monster is so great, and he doubts that he can successfully defeat that kind of monster. One of their neighbors, Cherta, walks up to Rodin and hypes him up as the star of the day. The other villagers there hail Rodin because that kind of victory isn't one that anyone can achieve. So Rodin had done so well. Cherta notices Alan and comments on Alan's black hair and eyes. Alan greets him in return, and he is shocked that Alan can talk at the age of 1. He comments that Alan is growing so much better than Krita, his daughter, who is about the same age as Alan. Alan asks about the Great Boar and how strong it is. So Cherta explains that the Great Boar is a C-ranked monster. It isn't some Twartleman Tokilit. This only gives Alan enough opportunity to gauge himself and think of how he could be better. 10 months pass by as fast as possible, and Alan is now 1 year and 10 months old. He keeps trying his hand at his skills, and he realizes that he can now summon G-ranked monsters. He can also successfully fuse together H and G rank monsters. He has cards of both H and G ranked monsters and checks his cards, then tries to use his newly acquired power, but he gets a notification that he has low MP. He assumes the problem is hunger, so he goes to eat his meal. He rushes a huge plate of food, and his parents look visibly concerned. Turns to his room immediately to check his powers. When he tries to fuse the cards again, it doesn't work. Again, he has low MP. He considers summoning another card, but again, he has low MP. Eventually, he gives up on it. 3 years pass by, and Alan is now 3 years old. He has gained enough strength and MP, and he can now fuse together his 2 cards. He fuses a G rank and an H rank card and gets a GH card. Then he summons a pet from the card. He successfully summons a bird G, and he is excited. The bird, which he names Chappie, is level 2 in agility and strength. Also has the skill voice mimic, which makes Alan assume that he could validly use it against enemies when fighting. Alan goes outside with his new pets. The first one is Hoppy, a tiny bird that hops. He asks Hoppy to hop, and he hopes to use the hopping to distract his opponents. The next is Molly, a pet that has the ability to dig. He asks Molly to dig, and Molly digs a hole, which he hopes to use to set a trap for his enemies. As he plans his imaginary life, he mistakenly falls into the hole that Molly had dug. This brings him back to the reality that he is just a child and he can't even fight anyone. It is 3 o'clock p.m., and this brings him more worries. He hears the voice that worries him and knows that she is around. The voice belongs to Krita, Cherta's daughter, as she is there to play with him as usual. They play night games every day, so they both set out their swords to fight. Kita is faster than he can imagine, and she has so much strength that she overpowers the reincarnated protagonist. After hitting him as much as she could with no defense on his side, he falls down flat and loses the game. His parents arrive, and Teresa's stomach is now as big as he had earlier predicted, which means a sibling is coming. Teresa and RHDN ask Krita to return home, and they also go home. During dinner, Alan suggests to his father that he would like to follow him to the farm to help with the harvest since his mother is pregnant and won't be able to help. Rodin refuses his offer, and Teresia also insists that she is strong enough to continue. They appreciate the fact that he has been helping with the house chores, but he is still a kid, and a 3-year-old boy shouldn't be on the farm. To him, he already has the strength of an adult and can take the burden off them. However, he understands that they wouldn't want him to do that, because no parents would want to subject their child to such a thing. Teresia tells him to continue playing with Krata. They comment about his night games with Krata and how good they are. Rodin informs him that with their present skills, they can't wait to see what their abilities will be during the appraisal ceremony. Alan doesn't know about it. So Rodin explains that when they clock the age of 5, a ceremony will be held where they will learn what skills they have. If they get good skills, they will be able to break out of serfdom. Rodin also comments that he has been seeing Alan throwing stones at the tree outside and inquires why. Alan lies that it is because they told him there are monsters outside, so he wants to throw stones at them to protect his mother. The real reason he has been throwing stones is to confirm if he has any other skills besides summoning. The following day, he practices his summoning. He has gotten to the stage where he can summon all day without getting tired. He looks at his Andankatu, but gets distracted when Krita arrives. They go for their usual duel, and as usual, he loses and falls. Rodin arrives and Teresia comes to greet him. Unfortunately, Dina hops onto her and she falls in fear. She recovers after the scare jump, but suddenly gets severe stomach aches. Her water has broken and the baby is on its way. Rodin commits Krita to get her mother Matilda, while he takes Teresa to the bed, trying to help in his own way. Alan helps to boil water. He goes to inform them that the water is hot. And coincidentally, Matilda arrives too. She sends the men out of the room and helps Teresia with the delivery. The men are almost asleep outside the house when Teresa gives birth, and they call them in excitedly. Alan now has a brother and Rodin names the child Mash, a name that Teresa questions, asking if it isn't also the name of a monster. Rodin reacts with a smile that shows her she is right. Seeing the excitement on everyone's face, Alan wonders why he was reincarnated, removing the fact that he is a game addict who just wanted to level up into a new game. He was nothing but a work addict who was lonely and lived a poor life in his previous world. There is nothing for him to miss in that life, and if he is being fair, he loves the idea of his new family. For now, all he wants to do is get his family out of serfdom. Teresia calls him to greet the baby. He goes to greet the child, who bursts into tears. He is terrified by this, and they jokingly tell him that kids are just like that. Alan is undoubtedly enjoying his new life. However, fingers crossed to see his growth. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you won't miss new episode every week. Iluji used to be a regular dude, but one day he finds himself transformed into a dragon egg, and he is in the same situation as Doofenshmirtz, because neither of his parents showed up for his birth. The first thing he sees is a screen, and he is informed by a voice in his head that his status window will display information about his abilities, which seems handy. But then Iluja realizes he should be concerned about the fact that he is hearing a voice in his head. The voice explains that she is part of the skill Divine Voice, and her job is to explain things involving his status and abilities. He asks if this world is a game of some kind, but the voice tells him she can't provide that information since the Divine Voice skill is still only level 1. Iluja then asks if she can at least tell him where he is, but the voice once again refuses to answer any non-status related questions, and Iluja gets so frustrated that his egg ends up rolling off a cliff. By the time he stops, the system informs him that he just received a falling damage resistance ability, but it came at a cost because his HP went down by 1 point. And when you've only got 5 HP, that's a pretty big deal. Yua ends up rolling over to the edge of a lake, and there he sees his reflection for the first time in this world, and this is when he realizes that he is a literal egg. The system informs him that he is a dragon egg and Frank monster, and if his shell is somehow destroyed, he will die. Iluja is already upset about the situation, but to make things worse, the system tells him that dragon eggs are powerless and single-digit IQs, so rolling around is pretty much all he can do right now. They do have the potential to become a fearsome dragon once they hatch, but if you've ever watched Nat Geo Wild, you know the odds of surviving without turning into a protein snack are really low. Iluja starts freaking out, and all his shaking causes him to start rolling down the hill, but he ends up falling off another ledge, and his HP drops to 3. So he decides to stay put for the meantime because he can't risk taking any more damage. By nightfall, Illusia's HP has finally regenerated, so it's safe for him to start moving again. He breaks into a slow roll across the floor, and as he does so, he starts thinking about what his life as an egg is going to be like. Being an egg may suck, but sooner or later he's going to hatch into a dragon and become extremely powerful, so he decides to make that his mission. However, as he is rolling through the forest, he ends up coming across another creature. He gets a little closer to take a look and finds out that this thing is called a dark worm, and according to its stat screen, it has the title of Egg Eater. Yeah, this isn't good. Illusia immediately starts rolling away for dear life, but at the speed the worm is chasing him, simply running away isn't going to be enough to get him out of this mess. The worm currently has 8 health points, which is more than Illusia's max health. So, if he tries headbutting it, he's going to die first. Just then, he remembers that he received some fall damage resistance earlier today. So, he decides to use that to his advantage and lures the worm over a nearby cliff before tricking it into jumping off with him. They both hit the ground. Illusia is still in one piece thanks to his fall resistance and the fact that he landed on top of the worm's body. So, the system informs him that he has received 12 experience points for successfully killing the worm. As a result, he has leveled up and met the requirements for evolution. So, the system then shows him the evolution tree and asks which path he would like to take, the baby dragon tree or the little dragon tree. Illusia has no idea what the difference between the two is. So, the system starts explaining to him that little dragons are a dwarf species of dragon, but while they may be small compared to other dragons, it can still grow to around the size of a bear, and it also has a deadly fire breathing ability. In contrast, the baby dragon doesn't really have much going for it aside from the fact that it has the potential to evolve into many different dragon species, but it does taste really good with soy sauce, so Illusia might end up in an episode of Delicious and Dungeon if he chooses that one. Illusia really isn't interested in becoming a meal, so the little dragon seems like the safest option to him. But just as he is about to choose, he hears a voice telling him that he needs to grow stronger and aim for the top. This voice was completely different from the system's voice, and he has no idea where it came from, but it seemed to be referencing his evolution choice. The little dragon may be the safest choice right now, but the baby dragon has more potential for growth down the line. So, even if it may be a risky play, Delucia decides to go with the baby dragon evolution tree. After the evolution is complete, all his stats go up by a decent amount, but his HP wasn't fully regenerated, so he still needs to rest to restore it. Just then, Illusia's stomach begins to rumble, and his eyes start wandering over to the worm's corpse, because it looks really appetizing for some reason. Illusia assumes that this must be his baby dragon instinct at work, because he would normally never consider eating a worm. But it's not like he has many options for food right now, so he decides to go for it. Tastes just as bad as he thought it would. The next morning, Illusia wakes up after taking a nap, and his health has been fully restored, but he still has to deal with the fact that he's a baby dragon now. He has no idea why he was reincarnated into this world, who was responsible for it, or even who he was before he was reincarnated. He is fairly certain that he used to be human, but he can't remember any clear details of what his past life was like. Just then, Illusia notices a group of dark worms gathering behind him, and now that he is no longer an egg, he's able to fight back and slice them to bits one after the other. Killing all the worms earned him a ton of experience, so he was able to raise his level to 3 all in one go. This level jump allows him to access the baby fire breathing ability, so he uses it to kill even more worms until he eventually reaches level 7. He then continues farming worms until he cracks level 15. And with how quickly he has managed to level up, he can't wait to see what his next evolution will be. Just then, Yue's stomach begins to growl, and he realizes that he is probably going to have to eat more of these worms if he wants to keep fighting at max strength. But these things are really gross. He wants to try eating something else instead, so he looks around and eventually spots some mushrooms on the ground that look pretty tasty. But then he's reminded why you never eat random forest mushrooms. Those things are riddled with poison and he barely managed to survive just now. But it did grant him a poison-resistant skill, so it wasn't a complete waste of time. Yuusha still doesn't want to eat the worms, so he decides to head out into the forest to look for some new prey. And a few minutes into his search, he spots a gray wolf. The wolf is bigger than he is, but stats are higher, so he decides to go after it and starts running alongside the wolf. He then punches it to death, and after inspecting the corpse, he realizes that he can use his flames to grow the meat. A few minutes later, Yuusha is holding a perfectly cooked piece of wolf meat, and it's the best thing he has tasted ever since arriving in this world. He wants to get more of it, so he decides to start hunting wolves exclusively so he can eat their meat once he is done for the day, thanks to all his hard work. By evening, Yuusha has reached level 20, and his next evolution is set to take place once he reaches level 25. However, the rate at which he levels up slows down the higher his level gets, so it won't be as easy going forward. On the bright side, since he has been using his baby breath so often, he has gotten pretty good at grilling meat, so his food situation is solved. Though he wishes he had someone to talk to besides the system, since she never answers any of his important questions. Just then, Yuusha hears voices coming from nearby in the forest, and he may not understand what is being said, but it means there are other people here, so he goes to check it out. The voices were coming from a group of humans, and Yuusha wanted to go talk to them, but that would be difficult to do as a dragon. Individually, Omouna was Yuusha, but they do have numbers advantage, so exposing himself to them might be risky. But he doesn't want to be alone forever, so he decides to go out anyway. Unfortunately, he forgot about the fact that baby dragon meat tastes great with soy sauce. So, the second the adventurers see him, they immediately attack for an easy meal. He tries to tell them he doesn't want to fight, but he can't speak their language. So one of the humans slashes him across the chest, and the other uses a lightning spell to stun him. Yuusha realizes this was a huge mistake, so he tries to run away, but the lightning has already made his legs go limp, so there's nothing he can do. The adventurers begin closing in to finish him off, but at the last second, the girl with them steps in to stop them because she feels bad for Yuusha. The next time Yuusha opens his eyes, he sees the girl healing his wounds, and he is sincerely grateful that she chose to defend him. The other don't understand why she cares so much about a random dragon that could have been their meal for the night, but if she wants to keep it alive, they aren't going to stop her. Yuusha takes a look at her stat screen and finds out that her name is Mia, and she is an Earth human, also using the last of her MP to heal him right now. And Yuusha has already regained mobility in his legs, but he knows that Mia will likely leave once she realizes that he is healed. So he pretends to be hurt a little longer. Yuusha still doesn't understand the words Maria is saying, but from listening to her, he received a skill called Greek language, and if he levels it up, then he will be able to understand her better. Just then, Yuusha hears loud screams coming from further into the forest, and he realizes it must have been the other adventurers who were with Maria for them to have screamed like that. There must be a ridiculously strong monster nearby, and if that's the case, there's no way they survive an encounter like that. Maria wants to go check on her friends, but Yuusha grabs her coat to stop her because it's too dangerous, especially since she has no MP left. But Mia doesn't understand the warning he's trying to give and runs off regardless. Yuusha may not know what kind of monster is out there, but he knows for a fact that none of the humans can beat it, so he needs to go save them. But his legs are still a little numb, so it's hard for him to move. By the time he finally makes it all the way over to the site of the screams, he is shocked to find a giant C-rank rock dragon, and it has over 200 HP, which is way higher than the 30 HP Yuusha has. Normally, he would turn around and run away as fast as he can, because he does not want to fight this thing. But then he sees Mia collapse on the floor, and he doesn't want to leave her behind. So it looks like he has no choice but to stand his ground. This was the end of episode 1. Subscribe to not miss the next. A young witch lives in isolation deep in the forest because of her ability to create poisonous mushrooms that kill anyone who comes near them. She occasionally visits the nearby town to deliver medicine and buy books, but The people fear her until she meets someone who changes her life. In the depths of the Black Forest, hiding away in a house made of poisonous mushrooms, there once lived a young witch. Although young, she had lived many times longer than humans who appeared her age. She had been living there alone ever since she was about half her current height. Recently, she's taken an interest in making medicine, working in a flow. With the steam to perform such a methodical task seemed to put her mind at ease. Her medicines were effective against many ailments, and selling them in the nearby town brought her some very welcome income. Minos asked Luna if they were heading to town, and she gestured a nod of affirmation. She poked his nose, changing him into a fully grown bull or cow. I don't know, but Minos would carry her wares once every 3 months. Luna took the medicine she made into town. The two made conversation along their journey. Minos was particularly talkative in contrast to Luna's light responses. When they arrived, the people stared with shock and fear as every step Luna took left poisonous mushrooms behind her. Thus, she was known in town as the Champignon, which a mother would grab her child away, warning him not to touch the Black Witch's poisonous mushrooms. There were people whose skin rotted away with a single touch. Someone even died after accidentally eating one. Reaching the vest shop in town, because Minos wanted a nice fabric vest, the shop owner closed the door on them. The witch never felt comfortable here. She promised to make another vest for Minos herself, one that was nice and soft. A butterfly fell in Luna's presence, and the kids clamored about the witch's breath and skin stinking like poison gas. She hid herself in a big hat to hide her embarrassed look. Things had been like this for as long as she could remember. Never made her particularly sad. It was just the way her body was. One vendor was happy to see her. He had just ran out of her hair growth formula, so it was perfect timing. People said it worked well, so he asked her to bring a bigger batch next time. This apothecary was friendlier to the witch than most of the townspeople, as he depended on her pharmaceutical skills. But whenever she visited, he of course always wore his herb-infused mask. That's just the way things were. The witch loved the bookstore. Its owner was a descendant of both the humans and spirit worlds, so he was also somewhat understanding towards the witch. The townspeople were wary of strangers and outsiders, so he lived his life in human form. Noticing she was getting flushed from checking out his true form again, he asked that she please not, because he couldn't deal with her falling for him. He was glad she came, though it had been quite some time since her last visit, so the town's air was stagnant. Even just stepping outside felt depressing. But thanks to her visit, he could probably start venturing out again. It was because she absorbed the poisons in town today, as she always did. The way her body reacted to pollution by growing mushrooms that filtered out toxins never ceased to amaze him. She was surprised so many large mushrooms sprouted when she entered the town square, and the spirit speculated on why. Last week, there was a public execution there. The bookstore owner did not state this outright, but a public execution meant it was likely part of a witch hunt, likely an acquaintance of the witch, and likely someone innocent. While this was still a small country, it was able to develop to the extent it had, thanks to the help of powerful magicians. To maintain control over that power across generations, the royal family chose powerful white witches as their queens. As a result, those who were loyal to the crown were known as white witches and wizards, and those disloyal were black. Tu beganze blanc. The world was a difficult place for Luna, but because she could still sell medicine and buy her dearly beloved books in this human world, she had not given up on it yet. Beginning to store the books in her hat, Spirit asked her a favor. He picked up a very strange book that seemed to be under a powerful curse. Word is that many of the people who read it went insane and died. He couldn't even pick it up. With Luna's touch, vicious creatures came sprouting out, about to attack her, but she dismantled it into a mere tiny mushroom, eating it promptly. Tasted like that curse that killed around 150 people. Luna already knew that when she left the store, the bookseller would start vigorously wiping down everything she had touched with lye. Still, she was grateful he would wait until she left. Walking back, Luna and Minos noticed the apothecary was packed with ladies, clamoring to buy all the helpful medicine that she produced. Some spoke, wishing they could thank the person who made it, especially since it was sold at a price the common folk could afford. The town was unpleasant, but still offered unique moments like this that made her visits worthwhile. This was not something she'd see if she stayed hiding alone in her forest home. It was her reward for having the courage to venture into the outside world. She took notice of a man passing by, hobbling as he could on crutches with his one leg. Apothecary would later tell her that he couldn't possibly sell medicine that grew legs back. If something like that actually worked, authorities would be breathing down in his neck in no time. She would seek out the one-legged man, despite Minos telling her he probably wouldn't take her medicine. She saw a couple speaking loving words towards each other. It was the first time she saw people embracing and smiling like that. She didn't know what to make of it, because when anyone touched her poisonous body, they soon regretted it. Their skin would rot, and they'd stop breathing. The witch had never known the warmth of another's embrace. She knew this was known as romance, having learned it from her books. Luna inquired about the one-legged man at the bookstore, and he told her he'd keep an eye out for him. He asked what was up with Luna, and Minos explained what she saw with the boy and girl earlier. So he recommended some popular romance novels he had on the shelf. Marino and Sissi welcomed them home, asking for souvenirs. They were disappointed because it was the same as always, just books. But it wasn't her fault. Most shops wouldn't serve her. Reading gave Luna a way to escape the world she was stuck in. She could enter the world of a book and become someone else. The witch loved these moments when she could escape from her troubles. In the books, humans who looked like her but had no magic went on dangerous adventures or gave research presentations living through happiness and sadness. The witch used books to learn about many different life experiences. Minos asked if she was going to read the romance novel En Dove Course. Love was one of those things out of her reach. The image of love was so beautiful, though. Luna also loved to draw, and Minos recognized it as the boy they saw earlier today. To her, books illustration. The witch loved beautiful things, but was always scared that her poison would destroy that beauty. So she and her mind, it was one of her life's little pleasures, and sometimes her pictures would take on a soul. The boy she drew smiled so brightly at her, asking her to dance. She poked Marino so she could ride on and reach her drawing floating out her window. His hand was cold and light as paper, but it was still the first time Luna held someone's hand. Her heart felt so light, it was like she could fly to the moon. The dance exceeded her wildest imagination, something that could only exist in books. Their serendipitous stroll in the sky contained more romance than all the love stories in the world. The wind would suddenly shoot gusts blowing the paper, and Luna would reach to catch, falling off Marino, but landing on a mushroom she quickly summoned. Like the moonlight itself, that special night shone brightly in the witch's memory for the rest of her days. Strolling back to town on another day, Luna and Minos would spot the couple from before, and the girl kicked him down. The boy seemed different, as if the charm was sucked out of him like an empty shell. The girl gossiped with her friends about how Henry turned out to be a total loser. Luna only now realized she must have ruined him. Pulling his essence out from her paper, she shot it back into Henry, and he sparkled brightly. Now, all the ladies were swarming around him, but he'd take notice of Luna and call for her. She'd run off as fast as she could, thinking she would never draw again. He wasn't sure why, but it's like he totally forgot she was a black witch. She just seemed like a nice, normal, pretty girl to him. He couldn't explain it. Badboot next team to her again. Henry would brightly greet her on a different day, and Luna looked around, unsure if he was actually talking to her. Not only was it very rare for someone to approach her without hostility, but she was also consumed by regret and guilt for what she'd done days before. The other folks were surprised he was hitting on a black witch. They thought he sure had stoned a hero among womanizers. Luna hid under her hat and floated away. He thought, dang, maybe next time. She came back sprouting from a mushroom. Henry had been waiting and consoling Minos with food. Minos mood, calling her a dummy for abandoning him. He apparently told Henry how shy she was, and he apologized for surprising her. She in turn told him she was just as sorry for running away and the other stuff she did to him. He knew it. It wasn't just his imagination. He remembered them dancing under a moonlit sky. He couldn't forget the way she looked that night. When he reached out, she got scared and summoned a mushroom to hide behind. She told him she was only able to touch the other night because it wasn't his real body. She didn't want to hurt him with her dangerous poisons. He was amazed. He heard rumors about the Champignon, which mushrooms really did sprout from everything she touched, and the mushroom were so much cuter than he imagined. He touched the one she used as a shield, and seeing it didn't poison him, he told her it was very cute. This made roses sprout from her head, watching all ries continual, flirting. The guys thought he was turning into one of those studs who had tragically bad taste in women. But his puppy, dog-like charm is what hooked people. They wondered if things would be okay. His family was devoted to white witch fundamentalists after all, the loyal to the crown types. Although Henry wasn't like that. If one of his relatives saw this, there'd be hell to pay. He'd probably get chewed out. Outside of that, she'd end up on the witch hunt list at this rate. Some crows appeared from above, and observing them, a black-haired boy wondered what Luna thought she was doing. Henry wasn't so adept at magic, but having witches in his family, he could tell they always looked down on him. So he in turn never thought too highly of them. It was refreshing that Luna didn't treat him that way. Even with all her poisons, his heart, even the air around him felt like it's been purified. It's like her mushrooms washed away everything rotten around him. He wondered if that was part of her magic. Luna got teary-eyed, finally getting recognized for all the good she'd been doing by being here. Some men would shout, "There she is!" and she'd hide under her hat. One of the men asked Henry what happened to the black witch that was just here, and a crow swooped her away, with Henry chasing after, asking if he'd see her again. He wanted her to draw another picture of him. She woke up to Claude telling her, "Hey, get the hell up already." She was in the bookstore. Claude changed from crow to human form, asking what she was doing making a move on someone under the White Witch's protection in broad daylight. If the military police captured her, she wouldn't have gotten off easy. The store owner told Claude to hold up. He couldn't just barge into someone else's home and start ranting. The owner was happy Luna was delving into romance, even though Claude wasn't so happy about it. Crow Boy was someone who always watched over Luna. He was the familiar of a great and respected wizard. For some reason, he was always very controlling when it came to her, but would always help whenever needed. He told her she wasn't seeing that guy ever again, and if she did, he'd go straight to his master, because if something went wrong, it wasn't going to end with her just getting purged. It was going to involve all the black witches and wizards. That night at her home, Marino told Luna to draw a picture of the prettiest thing she saw in town today. Beginning to draw, tears poured down her face non-stop. Her hands moved on their own, and before she knew it, a drawing spilled out onto the page. She merely wished to retrace the words he said, the way he looked, and out from her drawing came Henry's smiling face. The Henry from the drawing couldn't speak, so he wrote in the air, "Thank you for drawing my picture again. I wanted to see you so badly, Luna, but don't I look a little messy, eh?" Then before she didn't intend to see him again. She thought if she drew him, it'd cause trouble for the real him. But if she drew him poorly, perhaps he wouldn't appear anyway. That's what she told herself. Even if it was an inanimate picture, she just had to see him again. She was sorry, knowing she shouldn't have, but seeing him made her so happy. He told her not to cry, even though her tears were beautiful. He'd rather see her smile. Like this, he couldn't even wipe her tears away. It frustrated him. She had tears in her eyes when they danced too, and again when they were talking in town. He asked if he did something to upset her. She answered no. Those were tears of joy. No one had ever touched her with such kindness before. It made her so happy, also sad at the thought the moment would end. She's never known such joy before in her life. She was scared even now, wondering how such ultimate joy could be so terrifying. Henry promised everything would be all right, that she'd continue to find joy in life. He wanted her to come to him and find what awaited beyond ultimate joy, to capture joy that wouldn't fade so easily. He wanted to find a way they could spend more time together. He wanted to be with her forever. She continued to draw him and spent her days at home with him. They spent evenings under the moon, lips touching in warmth. Unfortunately, the townsfolk would talk about how he's been bedridden for a while now. The doctors couldn't find anything wrong and didn't know why he was so gaunt. His family said they were going to appeal to the White Witches for help. Claude knew things were going to turn bad. Luna decided to take a break from drawing him since he seemed kind of exhausted recently. Claude barged in and immediately scolded her. He told Luna to go see what she's done with her own eyes. In the night, she'd peer into Henry's room through a drawing he had of her. Only now could she see what she's done. Claude reminded her Henry was just human. She wasn't accounting for the toll her drawings took on him. When a witch with her kind of power pulled a stunt like this, it's just as the humans said. This was all a Black Witch's seduction. Henry later woke up to Luna's mushrooms, and as they cried, they put him to sleep. She came out of her drawing and hovered over the boy she loved. Along with the poison, Luna drew from Henry's heart a mushroom that had grown out of his feelings for and memories of her, more beautiful and delicate than any mushroom she'd grown before. It was almost like a flower. The fact that his feelings for her had blossomed in his heart into something so beautiful gave her great joy. The witch etched that night into her heart, taking the mushroom away. Henry's friends would later flag him down, glad he looked good as new. When they asked if he got sick because of the Black Witch's curse, he asked what they were talking about. He had no idea. The days went by, and the march of the Black Witch hunt grew louder and louder, while the witch herself made fewer and fewer trips to town, until one day she'd find a mysterious boy passed out in the river with a dagger in his chest. Oh man, that was definitely a sad intro. And so ends today's episode of this anime. Stay tuned for the upcoming episodes. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to receive all the latest updates. A boy works as a controversial streamer, creating provocative content to earn money to pay for his sick sister's treatment. Despite being hated by everyone, strange supernatural events begin to occur, pulling him into a dark world of curses and spiritual battles that completely change his life. Our story begins with a blue-haired boy named Soji. He was eating while playing on his phone, absolutely obsessed with games and streaming channels. His follower count grows day by day. Known by his alias Oringo, everyone is talking about him everywhere, in restaurants, cafes, on the streets, and even on the subway. He recently lunged at a mixed martial arts content creator, picked a huge fight, beat him to a pulp, and then fled the scene. He is absolute scumwalking trash, but he racks up tons of views. Oringo operates on the principle of provocation. The angrier people get, the more money he makes. Afterward, he visits his sister, Akari. He had been extremely worried about her because she was unwell, but thankfully, she reassures him now, saying she is doing fine. She asked, "Tell me, brother, what are you doing? What have you been up to? Why didn't you reply to the messages I sent earlier?" He replied, "I was just working on a little gig, and thankfully it went well. But look, I brought you a nice cake and some sweets." She looked at him suspiciously and asked, "Look, did you eat anything without me?" He admitted to eating 3, then corrected himself to 6. She got angry and scolded him. "You need a balanced diet. Forget that silly food you eat from outside. You order way too much delivery. You stay up all night. And I'm certain you aren't doing your laundry. You are completely helpless without my help." Just then, the girl grew weary and started coughing strangely. Terrified, her brother said, "I'll call the nurse immediately," but she insisted, "Don't worry, I'm fine." He told her to hang in there, as there was only 1 month left until her trip to the United States. "A super doctor will perform a miraculous surgery on you. God willing, you will improve soon. Patient and keep praying." She asked, "Okay, but what about the money? Where will we get it?" He assured her that he had taken care of everything. "I am strong and physically built enough to fight well and handle anything. I know I cause trouble for others, but I don't care even if I earn the hatred of the whole world, as long as Akari gets better. She is my only sister. That means I need more videos, more views, and more rage." The scene shifts to a month later. Everyone is talking about him, asking, "We haven't seen any new clips from Oringo. Did he retire? Where is he?" They check his page, only to find it shut down, deleted. The scene then cuts to Oringo, who was enjoying a nice drink or perhaps a meal, looking very pleased with himself. When he tastes the pudding, he finds it delicious and is certain Akari would love it too. He picks up his phone to text her, only to find she has already messaged him asking how he is and what he is up to. He tells her he is eating pudding, and Akari asks him to take care of himself until she returns, adding that she feels great, as if she had never been sick at all. Soji feels a pang of sadness for his sister, wishing her lasting health and well-being. That night, Soji goes to sleep, but while sleeping, he senses someone in his house. Opening his eyes in the dark, he finds a man trying to strike him with a hammer, but Soji manages to dodge the blow. He demands to know who the intruder is and what he's doing there. The killer apologizes sarcastically, saying he didn't mean to offend him by calling him a scumbag earlier. Soji screams that the man has broken into his home, But before he can finish speaking, the killer tries to strike a lethal blow again, though he misses. In that instant, Soji grabs his phone and flees the house. Terrified of this stranger, he texts his sister, telling her someone broke in. She becomes very worried, but he reassures her that he is safe now. However, the killer was specifically targeting his phone. Soji decides to call the police immediately. Before he can, the same man who tried to kill him appears right in front of him. Soji tries to hit him several times, but his attacks are useless. During their struggle, Soji realizes the man is after his phone. At that moment, it is Dakuro. Ek no Soji's name is aware there's a controversial YouTuber known as Ringo. He has seen his provocative clips, and the mere thought of them makes him want to vomit. Soji apologizes and asks if he had perhaps beaten up someone Kyokuro knew, explaining that he did it all for the money. He begs the man not to kill him. He says he can beat him up all he wants, but pleads with him not to destroy the phone because he is currently messaging his younger sister who is far away. If they lose contact, he doesn't know what he would do, but Kyokuro ignores him. He has no interest in beating him up, he only needs to destroy the phone. Soji begs to be left alone to talk to his sister, but Kyokuro screams in his face, "Your sister died a month ago." Soji refuses to believe him, insisting that she is the one messaging him. Then memories flood back, being in the hospital as they tried to save her but failed, and her dying right there. He also remembers missing her funeral because he couldn't accept her death, continuing to message her constantly. Suddenly, she would reply, though he didn't know who was answering. In reality, he hallucinates that she is speaking to him on video calls. He doesn't understand how, but he believes she is inside his phone. Soji breaks down in tears. Kyokuro quickly snatches the phone to destroy it, causing Soji to let out a massive scream, begging him to stop. The phone does not shatter. Suddenly, Akari emerges from the device, thanking Soji for taking care of her all this time. Soji is stunned, and then he weeps upon seeing Akari. However, she suddenly transforms into a massive ghost, terrifying Soji. Kyokuro speaks up, telling him, "You have been messaging this ghost the entire time." Ghosts tend to manifest in places closely tied to the dead, such as bathrooms, music rooms, beaches, hospitals, and mirrors. In our era, their attachment to phones has increased. When a dead person's social media account becomes active, it turns into a ghost. "You were messaging your dead sister." Kyokuro continues, "I was hoping to smash your phone before this thing fully manifested, but you stopped me. Now that she has reached this state, physical attacks are useless against her. I must resort to a digital spirit weapon to deal with her." The massive entity fully emerges from the phone. Soji watches in amazement as Kyokuro pulls a hammer out of his own phone. Kyokuro thinks to himself that Soji must possess some spiritual potential since he can see what is happening. He then addresses Soji, saying, "Don't worry, you are hopeless scum, but I don't discriminate. I will exorcise your sister's spirit while she is still tethered to the phone." Kyokuro attacks the ghost of Akari, striking her repeatedly with his power until she falls to the ground. "It is over," he declares. "Return to the land of the dead, where you belong." But Soji hears her voice and rushes to stop Kyokuro, pleading, "Don't do it! You'll hurt her! I don't care if she's a ghost, I finally got her back. I won't let you destroy Akari." Kyokuro snaps back at him in anger. "The dead do not return to life. You aren't the only one going through this. Everyone leaves someone suffering behind, but we have to do what is necessary to keep living." The ghost fully exits the phone. Soji rushes to the spectral Akari, telling her not to worry. Kyokuro shouts, "Do that, you idiot!" Suddenly, the monster attacks Kyokuro, striking him and throwing him a great distance, leaving him unable to move. The ghost of Akari then grabs Soji and flees with him. Ghosts tend to manifest in places closely tied to the deceased. Soji repeated these words to himself, recalling Akari telling him, "You are helpless without me, brother." He realized that he was the one binding her to this place and preventing her from moving on. He also remembered Kyokuro saying, "We must do whatever it takes to keep on living." At that final moment, Soji's spiritual energy began to awaken his powers. Soji told Akari that she was dead and could not stay here. He admitted he was a hopeless brother who couldn't even eat properly without her, but insisted she no longer needed to worry about him, he would be fine on his own. He began to attack Akari's Ghost even as she beckoned him to join her. Finally, he defeated her and wept bitterly. The scene shifts to Narihiko, who starts screaming, thinking Kyakuro is dead, but he is still alive. Kiyomi remarks that it was Mina-chan who woke him up, so he should show some gratitude. Runri then notes that Kyakuro could have easily destroyed a new ghost account, but instead, he made the boy exorcise his own sister. He adds that while it is tragic, the power the boy awakened was not a rare digital control ability. Kyakuro observes that the boy's digital control flame is blue. One of them asks, "What do we do with him, Master?" Uemaru replies, "We will take him with us to Maiden Academy. Of course, whether he survives there or meets his end is up to him." This concludes our episode for today. To follow the rest of the story, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to stay updated with everything new. Powerless girl with no abilities is forced to join a party of heroes, only for one of its prominent members to decide she has a burden and arrange for her to be sold into slavery. Thrown to monsters, she is forced to take up a cursed weapon, awakening a new power within her, and begins a blood-soaked journey to reclaim her life and her place. Our story begins with our hero, Flum Apricot. The village was expectant, hoping she would defeat the Demon King. Everyone cheers for her as she goes to meet her hero, Party. But suddenly, the scene changes to Zhang, one of her companions, grabbing her by the neck and telling her to stop dreaming. She did never after that. We see several people imprisoned in a dark and disgusting room. One of them is our protagonist, Flum. She notices a brand that was put on her face and wonders what her fate will be. Beside her is a girl, whom she asks how long she has been there. She thinks it's been about 3 days. Her eyes are beautiful, looking like a universe. But if she is there, she must be a slave too. A man who looks like a round ball appears, lighting the torches and apologizing for making them wait. He is sure they have already realized they have no value to him as merchandise. That's why he is going to get rid of them. However, buying and feeding them wasn't free. The least they can do in exchange is entertain him with their deaths. He pulls a lever. A sword rises up, and along with it, several creatures called ghouls appear. They are the lowest level of monsters. The prisoners start to get desperate. The monsters go after a cute blonde girl, devouring her. Wow, what a pity, right? The fat guy shows no remorse. If she was at least worth something, he might have felt it. But for the rest of them, he's going to give them a chance. If they can defeat the ghouls, he will put them back up for sale. They better do something or they will be next. They can't defeat them empty-handed, so they will need a weapon. He left a sword for them to take. Probably none of them know how to use it since they have terrible stats. One of them runs towards it, saying this will be his ticket to a better life. But his hands start to melt upon grabbing the sword, and his whole body evaporates due to the magic. What's left for him now is to be born in another world Isekai style. The sword is cursed. Anyone who touches it melts and dies instantly. It was epic grade. The chubby guy was foolish and ended up buying it just like he bought Flum, hoping she was a heroine. Her stats are all 0, and she is nothing but trash. Her fellow heroes noticed her stats were horrible and called her trash too. Even though she was considered a heroine, it didn't last long. She didn't want to leave the village. Even short walks tired her out, but she needed to fight anyway. On the battlefield, she proved to be terrible. While her colleagues helped each other, she couldn't use her affinity called Reversal, which seemed to just lock her stats at 0. Unable to fight, everyone was disappointed, making her wonder why she was the chosen one. She and Serial were the same age and came from the same place, so they quickly became friends. Unlike Flum, Serial was strong. Flum was left with only domestic chores, which was all she could do. Everyone thanked her, finding the food delicious. Even so, over time, everyone turned their backs on her and sold her to this giant who bought her cheap. Since she had no lineage or useful power, the least she could do was not get in the way. But she couldn't even manage that. According to Zhang, the hero sold her. Even breathing the same air as her was disgusting to him. Finally, he gives her a task she can actually do, holding a branding iron for slaves. She tried to resist, refusing to be a slave, but Zhang says she is nothing but a burden. Everyone is tired of her, trapped in his magic. She says that Eterna and Gadio are always kind to her. Zhang reveals that everyone agreed to sell her, and Serial wanted it more than any of them. She was radiant with the idea of never seeing Flum again. Finally, he marks her face, saying it is a deserved punishment. Maybe if she hadn't left the village, she wouldn't have gone through all this. One of the prisoners begs the whaleman to let her live, but he kills her without mercy. Flum also tries, saying she did nothing wrong, but he says she did. He paid a fortune for her because she was part of the hero's party, but he was deceived and lost money for nothing. To him, this punishment doesn't even come close to what she deserves. She is already going crazy with everyone calling her trash, saying she must pay for her sins and die already. She refuses, so the big guy tells her to try grabbing the sword. Maybe it will work. Her options were to give up and die, devoured, or fight and die melted. She doesn't want either. But if she's going to die anyway, she prefers to die fighting. She runs to grab the sword but is bitten by the creatures. She resists and manages to reach the sword. When she touches it, the pain stops instantly and she thinks she is dying. Unlike what the chubby guy thought, she manages to master the sword and absorb its power. After pushing the creatures away, the guy realizes all her wounds are healed. He orders the ghouls to devour her immediately, but they can't even get close. She destroys them and goes after the guy, who now tries to make a deal with her, even though he fills her with compliments. Flum has no mercy for what he did. Even convinced that the whole world wanted to see her dead, she continued battling. After finishing the job, she manages to store her epic equipment with magic and calls her colleague with the beautiful eyes to accompany her. She asks if Flum wants to be her master, since she wants to take her along. But Flum doesn't want any kind of servitude. She just wants to help her get out of there. Even so, the girl feels she must go with someone who is her master. Flum realizes she only knows the life of a slave. So okay, from today on, Flum will be her master. With that, she introduces herself as Milkit, and the two leave that place immediately. Soon, we see in a church that the war between humans and demons ended 30 years ago. Even so, demons continue to threaten human territory. Many knights of the church still risk their lives today to stop them. Now, they will join the heroes chosen by Origin, the creator. Everyone prays that these heroes bring peace, since Origin created the world and gave life to humanity. Their mission is to gather wisdom and pass it on to the next generation. That is why they gather in a great cathedral that connects them to God. According to the priest, the cycle of life is built with effort, a staircase to the heavens, and humanity are the living steps. This is the mission and purpose destined for them. Meanwhile, Flum and Milkit run through the streets. A man sticks his foot out to trip Milkit, and they start provoking them. She grumbles, and the men start laughing at her face. Milkit asks if something happened. She answers that it was nothing. She just learned what it's like to be a slave. While testing the sword, she learned to use Analyze, which she had never managed before. All the sword spells reduce stats, but for Flum, the weapon feels very light. Instead of melting, her body healed itself. That's why she wonders what is happening. Milkit thinks everything is inverted, so Flum realizes this is her reversal ability. All negative effects become positive, turns into healing, and everything becomes the opposite. She starts laughing happily for finally finding what makes her different. It's obvious she would never have discovered this otherwise. She would never have thought to use a cursed sword. Apologizes to Milkit for getting a little carried away and explains that, basically, thanks to her ability, curses make her stronger. This is a huge discovery. She always thought her powers were useless and never knew how they could be used. Milkit doesn't understand very well, but she knows her master is incredible. Flum thinks that was a dull reaction. She doesn't seem to be the expressive type, but that's okay. The two don't have much time until the sun sets and must go soon if they want to survive. The first thing they need is money. Soon we see the heroes camping. Zhang says that Flum decided to return home. He helped convince her, since it made no sense for her to continue traveling with the group, and she knew that well. That's why she chose to return to her village on her own. She wasn't very useful to them. Even Serial agreed with him. Serial reflects that she can't deny she said terrible things and hurt her deeply, even though Flum was super kind to her. It was thanks to Flum that she managed to resist the pressure of being a heroine. Even so, she was very ungrateful and no longer has the right to call her a friend. Zhang thinks she was just a distraction. Now Serial will be worthy of him. She is a natural born heroine and he is a sage. Talented people, like the two of them, were made to be together. Next, we see that the capital is divided into 4 districts. The central part, east, west, and north. Commerce and services of all kinds are found in the central district. The east was for the richest. The royal castle and the cathedral are the highlights of the north. And finally, the west, which housed the marginalized poor, where Flum is at the moment. She arrives at the guild, claiming she wants to become an adventurer. The receptionist, with her beautiful nails, thinks it's a joke and ignores the two, thinking they would do better as working girls. That's why she offers to introduce them to a brothel she knows. Since they are young, they would be successful. Flum says she doesn't want to hear any more nonsense and asks for the adventurer's license immediately. The receptionist says she was only trying to convince her to give up in a gentle way. It's better to keep her mouth shut and open her legs. Some perverted men are already eyeing the two and ask if they are looking for clients for tonight. One of them doesn't want to be with the mummy milk it, and the other thinks it's mean to say that. Even so, he agrees. Don appears, ending the jokes. He says it's not often that new people appear there in the West slums. That's why they should be more welcoming. If someone lives or dies after receiving the license, it's that person's problem. That's why the receptionist can't stop anyone, whether slave or noble. If they want to risk it, they can. Flum realizes he made the disgusting reception alert. The receptionist says the two will be able to receive the license as soon as they complete this job. Flum thanks Dawn for the help, who introduces himself as an rank adventurer of the guild. And it's a pleasure to meet the two. Flum says the pleasure is hers as well. After leaving, she thinks the mission will be easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Since it's rank F, the monsters should be just like those ghouls she managed to defeat easily. In the bar, the men discover that Dan didn't give them an F rank mission, but a D rank one. He wanted to see if the newbie could really handle it, even if the monsters are 3 times stronger. To the bald guy, the girls are walking to their deaths, but Dan doesn't care. If that happens, it means that unlike him, they aren't capable. After saying this jerkish thing, the jerks salute the jerkishness spoken. Dan is nothing but a cheater who used underhanded means to reach rank A, even though he is far from that qualification. The receptionist thinks he is a complete idiot, even though she is in a terrible place. Flum thinks there are still good people there and has a feeling that everything will work out. And so ends our episode today. To follow more episodes, please subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button to receive all updates. Tsuihou is a girl who hides her supernatural powers and enrolls in a night school to escape, accused of being a vampire. There, she meets a group of mysterious students who are strangely drawn to her. And as murders occur, hidden secrets pull her into an ancient conflict between vampires and werewolves. Our story begins with Desolus Academy, a night school where classes begin at 9 p.m. We see Tsuihou speaking with a staff member who has prepared a room for her in the old dormitory. However, there are strict rules. She is forbidden from leaving the school grounds after sunset. Pay close attention. Sure you will, Ned. There are that vampires out. You must be extremely cautious. Minutes later, she is taken to the location, and the atmosphere is genuinely eerie. The specialist leaves, and Tsuihou enters, delighted with the room. It appears Tsuihou might actually be a vampire, though no one knows for sure yet because she possesses immense strength, lifting the bed with just one hand. At that exact moment, Solon walks in. He realizes she is a vampire, but she desperately tries to convince him otherwise, even swearing to God. Solon replies, "Fine, I believe you. After all, I despise vampires." She then asks him, "So, why did you come here anyway?" He tells her he was looking for a book. "Yes, that's the one," he says, explaining that he is interested in ancient myths and loves reading. He leaves the room, only to pop his head back in a moment later to ask for her name. Tsuihou tells him her name, and Heli introduces himself as well, mentioning that he is a 12th year student before leaving the room. The scene shifts to Gino, Shin, and the rest of the friends discussing Tsuihou. They talk about the new girl who has moved into the old dormitory, the very place they had been using for storage. They realize they can no longer hang out there, but they need to go back to retrieve their belongings. However, they figure they might be able to visit often if they befriend her, especially since Shin has excellent communication skills. They discuss how Heli has already become her friend. Just then, Yan and Solon walk in and are shocked to hear this. They insist that they cannot befriend other students and that nothing good comes from getting close to them. Heli understands their perspective, she is different from them, and there is no one else like them at the school. They are unique. However, Helly holds a different view because he feels a strange attraction to her. Shin tries to ask Helly if he has fallen in love with her, but Solon interrupts, insisting that they do not possess such feelings. He adds that even if they got close, humans would never accept them, and involving her would only put her in danger. Once the conversation ends, Solon kicks them all out of his room. We then see Suha alone in her dark room, talking to herself. She has a surprisingly good feeling about this place. The next day, Suha goes out to meet her new friends to start the day. As she approaches, she overhears Solon warning Helly to stay away from the transfer student. Suha is shocked to hear this and remains silent. Shin tries to change the subject, telling her he has heard a lot about her and introduces himself. His friend Gino nudges him aside to introduce himself as well, joking that Shin is nothing but trouble and suggesting she be friends with him instead. Yan also introduces himself, asking her to forget what their friend Solon said. He explains that they don't agree with him at all and want to treat her normally. Suha is delighted to have made so many new friends. Solon, however, is furious at their actions and orders them to leave immediately, but they ignore him. Helly then speaks to Suha, asking if she needs anything. She tells him she wanted a tour of the school. Helly decides to accompany her since they still have time before classes start. Suha is pleased, and the other friends ask to join in to show her around. This engages Solon even more, as he believes they don't need that many people just to show her the campus. They take her along regardless. First, they show her the library, and Suha is impressed because it is much larger than she expected. Then they show her the 9th and 10th grade sections, noting that the 11th and 12th grade sections are a bit further away. Shan explains that he is in the 10th grade, just like her. Yan and Gino are in the 11th grade, and Helly is in the 12th. He also mentions they have two friends in the 9th grade named Jaka and Noah. Suha is very happy to see how close they are despite being in different grades. They explain that they grew up in the same orphanage and have known each other since childhood. Next, they take her to the sports fields and tell her about an upcoming nightball competition that everyone is training for. Introduce her to Noah and Jaka, who are so excited for the upcoming match that they are practicing on their own. They hate losing, so they train hard, confident they will win this year too. Suddenly, while they are talking, a ball comes flying towards Suha. One of her friends manages to intervene and save her just in time. Noah and Jaka immediately rush over to apologize. They note how lucky it was that the ball went toward Yan. They check on Suha to make sure she's okay, and finding her unharmed, she thanks them all for the tour. Everyone enjoyed their time with her. Suddenly, Suha remembers something and realizes she must return to her room. On her way back, she runs into Solon. She thanks him for his help, realizing he was the one who grabbed her clothes and pulled her back to save her during the incident at the field. Solon gets angry that she figured it out. He claims he was merely brushing dust off her uniform. He then sternly warns her never to think of being friends with them, stating they don't befriend anyone, especially her. Suha is left feeling deeply saddened by his harsh words. It seems all the young men are captivated by Suha, though it is hard to explain as if their minds are under the control of a mysterious force. Elise suggests we want to give. Everyone agrees. Shan even declares that it is love at first sight. Later, we find Suha crying, saying, "Don't worry, I won't even greet you anymore. I won't keep you talking for long." Solon replies, "Don't cry. You are misunderstanding. When I said we shouldn't be friends, I didn't mean I hated you. Even if I try to stop the others, I don't expect them to listen to me. So don't worry." He then leaves her. The next day, Helly accompanies Suha to school, telling her not to worry about Solon's words. Suddenly, Helly uses his power and speaks to Suha's mind. "We have a secret." Suha is startled and frightened, but he reveals his telepathic ability to her before walking away. Suha enters the classroom and meets Shin, who is overjoyed that they are together. After classes end, Suha goes to organize her room. Shin insists on going with her to help. Soon, we see all of Helly's friends in the room helping her clean up. Helly speaks to her again via telepathy. His friends notice this and get angry at him, but he tells her, "Don't tell anyone about your ability. We will keep each other's secrets." Each of them reveals their power to her, except for Solon, who speaks angrily, claiming he possesses no special ability or power like them. Finally, they finish cleaning the room. Suha thanks them and they all leave. Left alone, Suha talks to herself, happy to have met such kind people. It is revealed that she also possesses special powers. There are those who are not vampires, yet still wield power. She recalls a childhood memory of meeting a boy and becoming friends, just like she has now. Later, Solon confronts Heli, asking, "How could you show her your power? You shouldn't have done that. We must stay away from her and all humans. We are vampires." And so ends today's episode of this anime. Stay tuned for the upcoming episodes. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to receive all the latest updates. Person who hates humans because of a traumatic past finds himself working as a teacher at a school for demi-humans who are trying to become fully human. Despite his hatred, he is forced to teach them about human nature, putting him in conflict between his painful past and his new role. The first episode begins with the teacher, Rei, classroom with his students. He suddenly zones out, thinking about how much he hates humans because they are selfish, they don't care about others, and the kind ones are always exploited. Suddenly, one of his students, Tsubaki, calls out to him and asks what's wrong, as he was clearly lost in thought. He apologizes flaming here. Tsubaki and her friends mock him, believing he was contemplating something silly, and his ridiculous expression made it obvious. Their friend, Azoki, silences them, warning them not to speak about their teacher that way. Rei doesn't pay much attention, as he believes this is the perfect job for a human hater like him. He then asks the girls to settle down so they can return to their lesson, which will introduce them to human society. He insists they must study hard so they aren't caught off guard after they become human. This is when we learn that these girls are not human. They admire humans greatly and want to become just like them. We then flash back to Rei's past before he started working at the school. We find him constantly glued to his computer, playing games day and night, neglecting everything else. His mother enters to scold him, demanding he stop making noise in the middle of the night and disturbing the neighbors. She tells him he spends all his time on video games and needs to find a job so she can feel he is doing something useful with his life. It's been 2 years since he quit his last job, and he no longer seems interested in teaching. She understands it was difficult for him, but she is worried and wants him to be a success. Rei ponders his mother's words, then opens his computer to search for a job. He thinks it would be great to find a job where he doesn't have to interact with anyone. Suddenly, he finds an advertisement for a job in a quiet environment deep in the mountains. Rei is thrilled, as this is exactly what he was looking for. The ad mentions comprehensive insurance, vacation with natural hot springs, a work environment surrounded by nature and negative air ions, and a welcoming attitude towards candidates who possess human qualities. They are looking for dedicated teachers for their students. The job is at Shiranoi Private High School. Rei pauses for a moment because he doesn't want to teach, but he applies anyway and is accepted. Rei prepares to go to the location in the ad. Indeed, he finds himself in the middle of the remote mountains and thinks he must have taken the wrong turn. He opens the envelope containing the map and finds a ring inside. He puts it on his finger, not knowing what it is, and then opens the map. The map says there is a path near the bus stop next to a large cherry tree. He looks around for the tree and is shocked to find it standing right in front of him, even though it wasn't there just a moment ago. He heads toward it to reach the school. There, he meets the teacher, Satoru. Rei greets him, introduces himself, and explains that he's starting work today. Satoru tells him he teaches math and heard that Rei is the new social studies teacher. Rei confirms that he taught social studies for 4 years at his old school. Upon entering the school, Rei notices strange bottles and asks about them. Satoru explains that their school is unique for these bottles, which can't be found in any other school. Satoru then introduces him to the science teacher, Yiki. Yiki welcomes him warmly, telling him her students call her Yiki-chan and he can do the same. She is very friendly and treats him with kindness. Satoru intervenes, telling Yiki apologismen. Satoru then tells Rei that the principal is waiting for him, so he should head over to say hello. After dropping off his bag, Rei goes to the principal's office, feeling very nervous. He had only seen the principal during the remote interview, and the man seemed both polite and strict, the ideal image of a respectable educator. The principal gave him this opportunity, so Rei feels he must live up to his expectations. Rei knocks and enters the principal's office. He nervously says they met during the interview and he is very happy to be there. Principal welcomes him. When Rei sees him, he is completely shocked because he never imagined the principal to look so whimsical. The principal introduces himself as Karasuma and explains that his previous appearance was merely a disguise to select the appropriate human for the school. He casts a spell on himself to look like a handsome, elegant, and older gentleman. He reveals that the school is protected by a similar spell that prevents others from seeing it. The gem on Rei's ring nullifies the illusion, which is why he could see the path as soon as he put on the ring. He tells Rei the school hosts many types of unusual students, so the camouflage is necessary. Rei is confused. The principal clarifies that their students are not human. Dog Kags Drelves. And so on. This school was established to teach these non-human students how to become human. The school seeks teachers dedicated to their students because each student has a personal reason for wanting to become human, but it's not easy. This means the teachers guiding them will bear a greater burden than those in a regular school. He then asks Rei if he still wishes to teach at their school after hearing all of this. Rei is astonished by his words and doesn't know what to do, but he decides to continue the work. Rei then reads the school pamphlet, which explains that Shiranoi private high school includes a general education curriculum similar to what they would find in human schools. They will learn human nature and qualities, how to think, act, and feel like a human. Inhumane behavior and rule violations will result in deducted points, which will affect their record. Finally, they will learn social skills, relationships, communication, cooperation, and showing empathy, which are the foundations of human relationships. Students evaluate their classmates, and each student has a bottle at the school entrance where they can vote at any time to award points. Classes are divided into the following levels: elementary, intermediate, and advanced. Students who meet the requirements at the end of the school year will advance to the next level or be permitted to graduate and become human. The next day, we see Rei entering his first class. He thinks to himself that he wants to make a good first impression. He plans to deal with them as a teacher, but be kind as a human. He intends to appear trustworthy, mature, and his introduction should make him seem firm yet open-minded. Rei enters the classroom and introduces himself to the students. He says he teaches social studies, his favorite food is sushi, and his hobby is video games. He promises to guide them all in becoming human and tells them not to hesitate if they need to talk to him. Next, each girl introduces herself. The first, Haneda, is a stubborn finch bird whose hobby is enjoying music. She wants to become human to compose music. The second, Usami, is from a family of rabbits and wants to become human to repay a human for their kindness. The third, Minazuki, is a mermaid who wants to become human to dance. Her fins severely hindered her as a mermaid, but since getting legs, she's been acquiring the agility of a human. Rei interrupts her, saying she can tell him the rest later. Finally, the last girl, Gomi, introduces herself as a wolf werewolf. She explains that she sometimes transforms into a human and sometimes a different person. You could say she's a shapeshifter. Her desire to become human is to overcome her incomplete existence as a werewolf. Haneda then asks Rei if he's scared because they aren't human, or if he felt disgusted looking at them. Rei replies that he doesn't find them repulsive. He admits he was surprised at first, but his joy was greater. Alteashi estime he was happy Rei exists. One of the reasons is that he loves playing video games and fantasy. The main reason is that he hates humans and isn't good at dealing with them, so he thought it would be better to teach students who are not human. The girls ask why he holds such hatred for humans. Rei answers that humans are selfish and don't care about others. Teacher Rei starts talking to the students in class about how humans are selfish and uncaring. They exploit the kind, and honesty doesn't pay off. No matter how hard one tries to please others, they won't hesitate to trample on you at the first mistake. That's why he's concerned when he sees them so eager to enter the human world. Tsubaki interjects, saying they can't help but admire humans. They admire the transformation to human form. Kyoka agrees, saying that humans' unique cultures, lifestyles, and desires are all things foreign to them, and these are the things that move their hearts. Plus, there are many things they can't do unless they become human. Asaki agree, noting that the non-human world is not problems. Tsubaki concludes that if Rei asks them, humans don't seem all that bad. Teacher Rei insists that he still hates humans. The scene shifts to Teacher Ray lying on his bed in his room talking to himself, admitting that they certainly don't trust him at all and that he failed to make a good impression. The scene transitions to Ray with the students in the classroom, where he announces that it's time for lunch. Kyoka says she loves seeing the delicious homemade lunch the dormitory prepares for them. Teacher Ray asks her about the situation at the dormitory. She replies that the question is vague and she doesn't know what he means. He asks them if they get along in the dormitory. She tells him that's an invasion of their privacy. Kyoka asks if he will be eating in the classroom today, and if so, what he thinks about having lunch with them. Teacher Ray agrees, so he asks Kyoka if she's trying to get close to Ray. Kyoka asks her if she wants to join them. Teacher Ray thinks to himself that they may be his students, the thought of girls fighting over him, so he tells him to wipe that disgusting smirk off his face. They are fighting over points, not him. Kyoka suggests they all eat lunch together. Tsubaki and Izaki agree. The scene shifts to Teacher Ray, walking in the hallway, thinking to himself that he believes he hasn't lost much of their trust. Then, he hears a noise coming from the advanced class and asks if everyone is all right. So he tells him to shut up, and that he's the only complaining about something. He asks Kyoka Minazuki if something happened to her. She tells him there was a mix-up with her lunch. Tsubaki informs him that Kyoka doesn't eat kamaboko. Kyoka explains that as a mermaid, seafood doesn't appeal to her, but she's learned to tolerate grilled fish and sashimi. However, it's hard for her to accept kamaboko. Teacher Ray asks if it's because kamaboko is made of minced fish, so he tells him to stop scaring her. Kyoka says she would feel bad leaving leftovers from a carefully prepared meal. Azaki asks, why don't we switch? Kyoka is surprised and asks if she would do that for her. Kyoka thanks her. Teacher Ray thinks to himself, people actually say that. Is this normal in a girl's school? Tsubaki tells him he's staring too much. Then Kyoka screams. The teacher asks what happened. She tells him she can't accept chikuwa either. Teacher Ray realizes that chikuwa is also made of minced fish. Teacher Ray apologizes and says he will eat it immediately. Teacher Ray chokes and screams. The girls ask if he is okay, and he almost drinks tea. Tsubaki says she remembers hearing that humans place chopsticks across the cup and drink from the far side as a remedy, so he tells her that's a cure for hiccups. Azaki says she heard that tea tastes better when drunk while floating. Yagri. Teacher Ray takes the cup from them and quickly drinks, thinking he might die. Kyoka thanks him for saving her life. All the girls thank him, except Sui, who thinks he's arrogant. Teacher Ray thinks to himself, a school full of demi-humans looking for teachers who dedicate themselves to their students. Maybe I can continue in this place. This is how the anime episode ends. Our story begins at Lapis Lazuli Academy, where we see our heroine, named Tiara Rose, walking through the grounds. Her friends, Florian and Merita, approach her, lamenting that tomorrow is their graduation day and expressing their sadness at the thought of not seeing her anymore. Tiara reassures them that she will create opportunities for them to meet again, as she will always remain here in the kingdom of Lapis Lazuli. The girls realize this is true, recalling that Tiara is destined to be the future queen. When they ask about the date of her wedding to Prince Heart Knights, Tiara explains that after graduation, she will undergo bridal training for a year before holding the wedding at the cathedral. She vows to do her utmost to live up to everyone's expectations and ensure peace reigns across the kingdom. Tiara then introduces herself to us as the daughter of the Marquis, who was granted the prestigious name of Lapisand, the fiancée of the Crown Prince. However, the scene shifts to Prince Heart Knights, who appears wearing a deep scowl. Suddenly, a strange girl appears and embraces the prince, leaving Tiara shocked. We then see this strange girl in a different setting, sitting and playing a video game where Prince Heart is the main hero. It is revealed that this was Tiara's previous life. She had died and reincarnated inside the game, becoming Tiara the villainess. Back in the game world, we see Tiara in her room with Prince Heart beside her. He tells her she needs to rest and that he is preparing a carriage for her. Tiara narrates that Prince Heart is the main route in this Otome game and the first prince of the kingdom. The prince then asks her coldly why she fainted, accusing her of trying to attract his attention because he had been paying attention to the other girl, Akari. Tiara is taken aback because the prince standing before her has a dry, cold gaze, unlike the loving character in the game. She explains that she is simply sick and apologizes for the disturbance. He replies, fine, I am technically your fiancé. I know, tomorrow is the graduation ceremony, but I have work to do, so I won't be able to escort you. Before leaving her abruptly, Tiara is angry that he won't accompany her to her own graduation, but she resigns herself to the situation, noting that she knows exactly what happens next because she played the game many times. She explains the story. The main route features Crown Prince Heart, whom the heroine meets after enrolling in the academy with her powerful magic. In the game, he was the most popular student and constantly showered the heroine with love, affection, and romantic words, leading to a grand wedding in the cathedral after the ending. However, Tiara realizes, I am not the heroine, I am the villainess. In the original story, the villainous Tiara treated the heroine cruelly out of fear of losing the prince, eventually leading to a scene at the graduation party where she scorned the heroine, resulting in her engagement being annulled. Sitting in the carriage, Tiara decides that she will not commit those evil deeds, noting that today is the day before the game's finale. She arrives at her family's estate, where the maid Filion welcomes her. Tiara explains that the name Lapis is an honor bestowed upon families who perform great deeds for the royal family. Upon entering, she is greeted warmly by her mother and father, which surprises her as they are usually not so welcoming. Her father presents her with a dress to wear for her eventual wedding to the prince, and he even offers her some sweets he knows she loves. Tiara is deeply moved. She reflects on how she has undergone queen education since she was a child, studying various subjects diligently as the crown prince's fiancée. Her father, the prime minister, taught her many things, and she did it all out of love for Prince Heart. However, she realizes that her efforts never touched Heart's heart. It was a one-sided love all along. She briefly considers not attending the graduation party the next day, but dismisses the idea, not wanting to cause trouble for her parents. She accepts that Prince Heart's change of heart aligns with the game's plot and fears she cannot change her role as the villainess. If she were the heroine, she would have a happy ending, but she doesn't know what fate awaits her now. The scene then shifts briefly to the prince, who is heard saying, "I'm sorry, Tiara." Then we arrive at the day of the condemnation event. Tiara gathers with Merita and Florian, discussing Akari, whose behavior with Prince Heart Knights has crossed the line. How could she dare to cling to him while knowing his fiancé? Tiara is right here. Merita and Florian reassure Tiara that they are by her side and will never leave her. Tiara thanks them and the girls depart. Tiara reflects that she has mentally prepared herself for the condemnation event known to everyone else as the graduation party, but she remains afraid. Filion approaches her, suggesting that she should contact her master and ask him to escort her. Tiara reassures her, noting that her father has his own way of doing things and she doesn't wish to disturb him. However, Tiara admits Filion is right. If her father saw her entering the party without an escort, he would certainly be furious. Still, Filion remains anxious. At that moment, Filion bland of sweets for her to eat. When Tiara tastes them, she is astonished because they are incredibly delicious. In her previous life, she loved baking and eating sweets, and she finds that indulging in delicious treats brings her great joy. She asks Filion to always bring these sweets to boost her morale, and Filion agrees, delighted by Tiara's amazement. Suddenly, Akari barges in to check on Tiara. Filion tries to stop her, as it is improper to enter without prior announcement, but Akari ignores her and approaches Tiara. Tiara thanks her for her concern. Looking at her, Tiara is certain Akari is the heroine of the Otome game. Wearing a fancy dress and sparkling jewelry, she embodies exactly what a woman would expect from the game's protagonist. Akari tells her she was very worried after seeing her suddenly collapse in the classroom yesterday, adding that Prince Heart Knights was concerned as well. Just then, Prince Heart Knights enters to check on Tiara and asks if she will attend the graduation party. Tiara replies that she rested well last night, so there will be no issue with her attending. She then asks Filion to arrange the final preparation soon so she can arrive at the appropriate time. Realizing they have arrived at a busy moment, Akari and the prince excuse themselves and leave. The following day, Tiara prepares for the party. She enters the hall and finds the scene mirrors the game exactly. When she enters alone, everyone marvels at her solitude and whispers about the girl standing beside the prince. At that moment, Prince announces the annulment of his engagement with Chihara, the crowd is shocked. Tiara gathers her strength to ask why he is doing this, as she knows nothing of any wrongdoing and has done nothing to deserve this. She asserts that if he wished to take another wife, there were proper procedures to follow. The prince becomes enraged by her words, angry that she dared to talk back to a member of the royal family. He accuses her of being too harsh on Akari, knowing she was raised in the countryside. Tiara interrupts him, stating that Akari is entirely unaware of their kingdom's laws. She explains that she only taught Akari a few things because he is the crown prince. She asked Akari to bow when greeting him, which is only logical in their kingdom, and she instructed her not to dance with him, as Akari had already danced with him more than twice, an act reserved solely for his fiancée. She insists he should be aware of all this. The prince screams in her face, telling her that Akari informed him that Tiara had always been cruel to her. Heart tells Tiara Rose that she has always been cruel to Akari. Tiara Rose realizes that no matter how she defends herself, it will be futile, whether because the heroine is controlling him or because the game world is correcting itself to follow the original story script, making the ending unchangeable. She tells him, "If your heart belongs to Lady Akari." Heart asks if she wishes to annul the engagement, and she answers yes. Heart then publicly announces the annulment of their engagement and immediately proposes to Lady Akari, declaring that she will be the future queen. Tiara Rose consoles herself, thinking that even though this is over, still has her kind parents, Filion, and her friends. However, Prince Heart then delivers a crushing blow. He announces Tiara Rose's banishment from the kingdom. Tiara Rose realizes she cannot disobey the prince's order, but if she is exiled, she will never be able to see anyone again, not her father, her mother, nor Filion. Just then, Prince Aquastid arrives and asks Tiara Rose if she is all right. Tiara Rose is astonished by his presence. Aquastid is the first prince of the Kingdom of Marineford and the main character of the game as sequel. She had fallen in love with him the moment she saw his character design in her previous life, though she died before the sequel was even released. Aquastid tells her to stand tall and hold her head high with more pride than anyone else. Heart demands that Aquastid not interfere, insisting that she must be condemned for her actions. Aquastid counters that Heart's words are far crueler than anything Tiara Rose said. He admonishes Heart, stating that breaking an engagement at a celebratory graduation party and publicly criticizing and humiliating a lone woman are not actions a crown prince should ever take. Then, to everyone's shock, Prince Aquastid declares to Tiara Rose in front of the entire assembly that he has desperately wanted her to be his queen for a long time. Tiara Rose is baffled as to why a prince from the game sequel would propose to her. Aquastid acknowledges that the proposal comes as a surprise, but he asks her to give it some thought. The entire hall is stunned. Tiara Rose thanks him, saying that knowing his feelings makes her very happy. Akari interrupts, telling Aquastid that this is impossible, pointing out that Tiara Rose was Prince Heart's fiancée just moments ago. She claims Tiara Rose is cruel and hostile, arguing that she is unfit for him, and asks Aquastid to join their group instead. Tiara Rose scolds her, reminding Akari that Prince Aquastid is the crown prince of a neighboring kingdom and she cannot simply touch him so casually. Aquastid thanks Tiara Rose for looking out for him and turns to Akari, stating that she knows he is the first prince of Marineford, yet she still chose to treat him with such disrespect. He tells the guards that she is being disrespectful and orders them to take her away. He then apologizes to Tiara Rose for causing a scene with his intrusion and assures her he will help her at any time. Tiara Rose realizes that they must have finally moved past the game's ending. This brings us to the end of the anime episode. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you don't miss any new updates. A girl everyone mistakes for a handsome boy, living carefree under the nickname The Prince, until meeting one person who sees her for who she truly is, turning her world upside down and forcing her to face new feelings and a relationship she doesn't know how to handle. The story begins hurrying off of the train. A girl gets helped by a handsome prince who tells her to go ahead. Once outside, the girl is both flush and sighing. Other girls on the train speak about the princely guy's good looks, their hearts fluttering all the while, until they notice that prince is wearing a skirt. Yoi, Takiguchi was receiving another confession at school. She apologized, not really being into this sort of thing, but somehow left with another confession gift. In the ladies' locker room, Nobara and Kotobuki teased Yoi for the usual. Nothing's changed. Even in high school, Yoi failed to reject a gift as per usual. A tall, slender physique, a slightly low-pitched voice, a masculine face inherited from her parents. First year, high school, Yoi was definitely a girl, but everyone called her Prince. The upperclassmen teased her with that moniker. Koto could see why Yoi was way more appealing than the guys here. During last year's field day, a girl fell down and she carried her all the way to the finish line, coming in first place. She was so cool, like a hero from a shoujo manga. Wait, shoujo. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content like that. Hearing some girls talk about how their faces got red around Yoi, she decided to take a detour. She'd see some female students drop something outside and trying to hand it back. She dazzled in their eyes like always. People seemed to take Yoi more for a hero or prince than a princess. Couldn't be helped looking the way she did. Clang, footstep off a railing above. White hair, green eyes, gold hoop earrings. The boy landed in front of her and she stumbled back, apologized because he didn't see her there before the jump. He'd then lift her face and gently utter, "You know, you're really beautiful. Oh, you're a dude!" And she didn't take that well, telling him out of the way. For some reason, the boy felt like he's seen her from somewhere. During fourth period study hall, female classmates talked of how the prince was lost in thought. Her friends, meanwhile, could tell she was pissed. Asking if she was a dude right to her face was a little much. They noticed some girls pointing at the window, fussing about the other prince. Rumor has it his dad was a multimillionaire and already in charge of 2 or 3 companies. Also, the number of women he's brought to tears is easily in the triple digits. Yoi couldn't believe that. Glancing out the window, she'd be surprised it was the boy from earlier. He asked if her, but was okay. Things were getting spicy. The other girls wanted to know how she knew Ichimura. He was indeed the other prince. Friends of Kohaku Ichimura would ask if he knew her. She was famous after all. He was shocked, finding out she wasn't just some super beautiful dude. He felt bad now. At the convenience store that evening, Yoi sighed. She didn't usually talk to others in class, so that took her by surprise. The girls were just glad the two of them bumped into each other by accident. They'd lose both their princes if they somehow got together. To cope with the fact the other girls in her class didn't even see her as a girl, she decided to get some choco-anpin, but overheard a guy hitting on and hassling the store clerk. She cut in to tell the guy he was bothering her. The guy grabbed Yoi's shirt, telling her to mind her business, but Ichimura was recording the whole thing, saying nice cheesy line. His idea was to threaten to post the footage with the caption "Drunk gets called out for harassing a woman and goes crazy." The man would come at him next, but Ichimura would grip his face, telling him to beat it. He tossed the guy away like fodder to talk to Yoi, not expecting a sneak attack from behind. Yoi would deflect it, telling the man it was cowardly to attack someone from the back. Dazzlingliness radiated even here, and it made Ichimura chuckle. The manager barged in from the back, trying to figure out what was going on, and Ichimura took Yoi's hand, leading her out. Sitting on some swing sets together, he told Yoi her moves were amazing. She knew a little karate. Ichimura felt he understood the girls now. Back there, Yoi really looked like a prince. Yoi looked away. It's not like she wanted to be a prince. She considered herself to be perfectly normal. But everywhere she went, it's prince this and hero that. She was always put on a pedestal. She wondered why she was telling him this. Plied, so what if you're a prince? All girls needed to be demure. He'd tell her the thing she did made his heart flutter a lot. She gave him a simple thank you, and he laughed. He thought she was so intriguing. She was this beautiful and never been treated like a princess before. She told him of course not. In his mind, the guys around had horrible taste. She couldn't tell if he was messing around or being serious. He suddenly got in front of her and asked if she wanted a princess carry and picked her up with no hesitation. She squealed. She wasn't prepared for this, and he asked how she liked it, if she felt like a heroine now. He was just joking, but looking back at her, her face was red. She shoved her way off and told him it was time to go home, running away as fast as she could. She thought this was wrong. She wasn't the one who got swept off her feet if she fell down on field day, not the one who gave chocolate on Valentine's Day. A tall, slender physique, a slightly low-pitched voice, a masculine face inherited from her parents. She knew better than anyone that she wasn't fit to be a heroine. That's why she couldn't get her hopes up. She told herself she was okay, just surprised. That was the first time something like that happened to her. But why couldn't she calm down? Ichimura stared where she left, as if he had an epiphany. He thought that interaction was really nice after sleeping on it. Yoi started to feel super embarrassed about yesterday. She thought she was being way too self-conscious. She's never shown that side of herself to anyone before. Ichimura saw her from down the steps and asked what happened. She asked if he really wanted to be seen with her, considering everyone called him Prince. People might take it the wrong way. He told her he was fine. Let them. He made it clear he was interested in her. She was taken aback, wondering if this was some kind of prank, like someone had to be hiding and filming them. He tried to assure her not, but how he felt was hard to put in words for him. It was different from love. Then it clicked. The feeling was something like I want to watch you forever. That same feeling when you want to keep looking at something that's beautiful. He didn't want to take his eyes off of her for even a split second. She thought that's something a stalker would say. Either way, he'd ask her out for lunch today. She denied him. Really? She hadn't had much of a relationship with men her whole life. Most guys rejected the idea because she was more handsome than them. She couldn't understand what was up with Ichimura. She couldn't imagine someone called a prince would be really interested in her anyways, and bet he said charming things to all the women. With it hitting lunch break though, the girl started squealing as he entered the classroom. They couldn't believe he was calling for Yoi-chan and watched as Yoi shoved him out, trying to use what excuses she could for them, possibly knowing each other. They ended up in the old school building. Ichimura came here with his buddies all the time. After Yoi unpacked her lunch, she was surprised he sat so close to her. She glanced at his long, beautiful fingers, his well-balanced face. Was that why he was called the prince? He took notice of her pouring out curry, and that's when she revealed her family ran a curry restaurant. Ichimura was impressed. Yoi didn't want the word to get out, though, or she might get a weird nickname like the Curry Prince. Ichimura promised not to laugh, but he ended up laughing anyway. He liked that she ran a curry place though. He thought it was cute. She asked that he stop teasing her because she didn't know how to respond. He just tugged at her tie. He liked Itoagreat. There was something about her that kept him at the edge of his seat, wanting more. What face was she going to make next? Show me more, he said. Brings us to the end of the anime episode. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you don't miss any new updates. A sociable girl falls in love with a quiet classmate who is completely different from her, facing an inner struggle between her feelings and her anxiety as she discovers whether love can overcome differences in personality or not. Our story begins early in the morning. Miu diligently gets ready for school. She carefully puts on her makeup, making sure that everything is absolutely perfect. Meanwhile, other students are already on their way to school. They walk together with their classmates, pleased that they can spend their days with friends. Miu is almost done getting ready, standing in front of the mirror. She practices greeting Yasuki, making sure she looks presentable. Her brother finds her annoying, and her mother calls out for them to hurry since it's almost time for school. Grabbing her pink backpack, she finally makes her way to school. Surprisingly, she isn't late at all, and she cheerfully greets a pair of friends by the lockers. As she walks to class, she casually and confidently greets everyone. However, once she steps inside the classroom, she nervously greets Yasuki despite practicing it so many times. When he greets her back, she blushes bright pink and takes her seat as Man and Oi approach her desk to talk. She immediately becomes hyper, asking her friends if her eyelashes are on point. They don't really see the difference until Miu just used fake ones to save herself the trouble. Miu complains, saying she doesn't like how false eyelashes look and goes on about how hard it is to buy good mascara. She then turns to Yasuki for his opinion, but he bluntly replies that he can't relate to her at all. She laughs at his response and her friends are confused about why Miu enjoys picking on Yasuki. Miu explains that she just loves how he always shuts her down, then excitedly offers Yasuki her services if he ever needs help finding mascara. When he shuts her down again, she throws her head back in glee, while her friends scold her for bothering him. She mentally apologizes to him because the real reason she picks on him is that she's in love with him. Her friends continue chatting as Mi silently admires Yasuki. He may seem like a distant guy with glasses, but he's actually very blunt. Yasuki is also helping Kento with his homework, pointing out straightforwardly which parts the teacher will mark as wrong. Miu also admires how Yasuki treats everyone the same as she watches how he interacts with classmates. She recalls how they ended up sitting next to each other at the start of the semester. She had been incredibly happy and didn't know how to contain her joy. She was nervous and tried to be friendly. Yasuki answered her normally, even turning down her help. While most people might have been offended, Miu knows that he simply treats everyone equally, and that's a trait she admires. Her friends try to get her attention, and she finally snaps back to reality. She apologizes and says that she feels an actual person does better at revving up a crowd, then quickly turns to Yasuki for his opinion. As usual, he says he has no idea. Miu threatens feel sorry for him and tell him that he's free to complain about Miu. He simply blinks and says that it's fine. His answer shocks Miu, and she turns back to her friends to defend herself. Miu feels relieved that Yasuki doesn't mind. In her heart, she still feels bad about how she's always bothering him. In truth, she wants to talk to him normally and tell him how she feels, but she's too worried about her social image. She looks at him longingly, feeling down about how different they are. Many then suggests they go eat at Kingberg after school. Miu gives her friends an uneasy look because she still has homework to do, but when she sees their expectant faces, enthusiastically agrees to hang out. As the school day continues, Miu gets approached by a lot of people. First by Kento, who borrows her homework, and then by classmates who are also fans of hers. They ask if it's okay to follow her on social media, making Miu worry if she has posted anything embarrassing recently. After class, Miu and her usual group head to Kingberg. Kentro brings up Yasuki, which makes Mimi choke on her food. They start talking about how Yasuki is really smart and might end up going to a top university. Many points out that Miu is the one closest to him in their group. Miu chokes on her drink and tries to hide her crush on Yasuki. Luckily, the topic shifts to Sudakin, and Shuji comments that girls are really into that type of guy. Miu argues that Sudakin is the only one who's boyfriend material. She successfully avoids revealing who she really likes, but feels a little sick that she has to keep acting for the sake of self-preservation. One day, after school, Miu feels exhausted and spends some time alone in the bathroom. She doesn't like pretending, but she knows she has to. Eventually, she leaves so she can finally head home. She lets out a yawn as she heads to the lockers, surprised to see Yasuki still there. Nervously, she strikes up a conversation and learns that he stayed late for committee work. Unable to control her curiosity, she asks which direction he goes to get home. When he tells her, he turns right at the gate. Miu immediately exclaims that she does too. She quickly checks her surroundings, and when she knows no one is watching, she decides to invite him to walk part of the way home together. They end up doing just that, and Miu is happy to learn that Yasuki's route is similar to hers. She voices her surprise, gets nervous when Yasuki doesn't respond. Trying to keep the atmosphere light, Miu reasons that they probably never run into each other due to having different lives at school. When Yasuki gives only a one-word reply, she decides to talk about how huge the burgers at King Burger are. She's surprised when Yasuki responds by asking if the burger tasted good. Quickly recovering, she says that it does and jokingly invites him to go there. Yasuki agrees, leaving Miu stunned into confused silence. She tries to make sense of his response since it's so uncharacteristic of him. Aware that the silence is stretching on, she desperately thinks of something to say to avoid the awkwardness. Frustrated, she accidentally bumps her hand against his. She freezes at the contact, and Yasuki stops to look at her. They stand there for a few seconds before moving again. Then the unthinkable happens. He gently takes her hand and continues walking at a comfortable pace. Miu follows him, still unsure if what's happening is real or just a dream. She wants to enjoy the moment. Her mind is filled with how sweaty her hands are. She hears her heart pounding in her chest as she slowly realizes that this is real. Yasuki spots some students from their school nearby and quickly lets go of Miyu's hand, making her tear up a little at the loss of contact. After that, everything becomes a blur for Miu. She vaguely remembers Yasuki saying he was heading in a different direction to get home and herself rushing forward out of embarrassment from being so close to him. She makes it home safely, But now she can't stop overthinking everything. Her brother finds her sulking on the floor. She only starts moving again when it finally sinks in that she had just held hands with Yusuke. She goes through the motions of eating dinner and getting ready for bed, but her mind is still trying to process what happened. Just as she's about to sleep, she realizes that Yusuke was the one who initiated it. She starts rolling around on her bed, caught between fear and delight since she has no idea how she face everyone tomorrow. Her heart keeps pounding, and she's sure she won't be able to sleep at all. She screams in frustration, annoying her brother in the process. Contrary to her expectations, she ends up sleeping through the entire evening. In the morning, she rolls off her bed before waking her up. Noticing how bright it is, she grabs her phone to check the time. Realizing she's late, she hurriedly puts on her uniform and heads to the main room. No aniom for long, with a note to be late sometimes. She checks the wall clock and sees that it's already midday, so rushing won't make a difference. She decides to take her time and reheat the food before eating. She arrives at school around lunchtime, and her friends are shocked since me has never been late before. She smiles to herself and looks over at Yusuke's desk, only to realize that it's empty. Kentaro takes Yusuke's seat and bluntly asks if Miu is dating Yusuke, insisting that his friend Capitro saw them walking home together. Miu feels annoyed that Kento is teasing her about it since things between her and Yusuke are in such a delicate stage. Then it hits her that someone really did see them together, maybe even holding hands. She starts wondering how they were spotted. She struggles to answer and decides to brush it off as a big misunderstanding, not realizing that Yusuke has just walked in. Yusuke doesn't comment on her excuse and asks Kentaro for his seat. Kentaro promises to move, but Yusuke says he only needs his notebook from his desk. After picking up his things, he leaves, completely ignoring Miu. Miu watches him go, now certain that he heard everything. During science class, Miu can't focus on the lesson. Her mind is filled with guilt over being rude to Yusuke. She considers apologizing right away, but knows that doing so would cause a scene and hurt her social standing. She feels trapped since she wants to apologize as soon as possible, but doesn't know how. During pay, she's completely distracted and can't even pick up the shuttlecocks properly. She worries that Yusuke might be feeling down and that she's the reason why. After school, she knows she has to apologize before he leaves, but she's too scared to approach him with so many people around. To her shock, Yusuke is the one who comes up to her. He apologizes for yesterday and tells her to forget it ever happened, then turns to leave without waiting for her reply. Many soon joins her with the rest of their friends, eager to hang out as usual, but they quickly notice how strangely quiet Miu has become. All the noise around her suddenly feels overwhelming. Bracing herself, Miu finally admits that she's in love with Yusuke. Her friends are stunned as she explains that she invited him to walk home with her yesterday and that everything she is feeling is one-sided. Through tears, she looks at Kento and asks if what she did was wrong. Kento insists that just walking home together wouldn't make anyone suspect anything, then suddenly realizes that he was the one who asked if they were dating during lunch. They tell her that Yusuke has already left and encourage her to run after him so she can clear everything up. Mirashov determines, but she runs quickly. Slow. Her friends cheer her on, and she finally pushes herself forward, letting her feet lead the way. She realizes that after confessing, she feels much lighter. Meanwhile, Yusuke is already halfway home. As a bridge, he scolds himself for giving to temptation and holding her hand. He had always liked Miu, and the way she constantly talked to him. He thought she was just friendly to everyone, but when she shilly asked to walk home together, he began to hope he might actually have a chance. But after that, she didn't show up in the morning, and her absence made him miss her deeply. When she finally appeared at lunch, her words made him feel like he had been rejected. As he keeps walking, he's shocked when he hears Miu shout that she loves him. He turns around, just as she runs toward him, apologizing for all the misunderstanding she caused. She pours out her feelings, even telling him how happy she was when they held hands and admitting that she overslept because she couldn't stop thinking about it. Yusuke lets out a small laugh, then steadies himself so he can respond seriously. Blushing, he admits his own feelings, making Miu gush over how cute he looks. She starts crying in relief, and Yusuke takes out his handkerchief, telling her she ruined her mascara. She cries even harder with happiness that Yusuke actually remembers the silly things she tells him. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you won't miss new episode every week.